It is overtime again here at Old Favorite Friday, where we continue, as we always do, to give love and respect to incredible classic beers. And this week we are talking about a beer from Fathead Breweries. This is their Bumble Berry Honey Blueberry Ale. This is a brewery that we've only had a chance to talk about very briefly on Old Favorite Friday because I don't get a chance to get my hands on very much of their beer. But Fatheads is a brewery out of Ohio. They are absolutely fantastic. I've loved everything I've had from them, quite honestly. And this is a brewery that I was first came on my radar before I could even get their beer with a bunch of award wins they got. I believe it was either at a Great American Beer Fest or at the World Beer Cup. I think near the time they opened, I believe they opened around 2009. And the beer's always been fantastic. They always do their beers really well to style. They continue to innovate and do some fun new things. And I have only had this beer a couple times previously, but I remember really enjoying it. So I went and picked it up, kind of wanted to see how I felt about this beer at this point. And I was really blown away by it. This is a honey blueberry ale. If you are a fan of Old Favorite Friday and you watch these videos often, you might see or hear me kind of rail against overly adjuncted beers that are just relying on whether it be cocoa nibs or chili powder or overly fruiting a beer. So it's basically just like fruit juice. And talking about how the fact that the base beer has to be good, the ingredient, the adjunct ingredient needs to be used in a way that complements the beer and makes the beer not just one-dimensional. And this is a beer that does that really, really well. The blueberry in this beer is really well integrated. There is a honey malt sweetness that is really, really nice. But going back to that fruit, it's so important that one, this fruit tastes like real blueberry. It does not taste like a chemically extract. I have no idea what they actually used or how they're using frozen blueberries or they're using some kind of a compound. That's not information that I could find on their website. But the important thing is that the flavor of the blueberry tastes like authentic blueberry. I don't care how you get it. If it tastes like authentic blueberry, it's going to be delicious. Unfortunately, blueberry beers were really, really popular. I mean, not unfortunately, but these beers were very, very popular when I was first getting into craft beer. You had things like Sea Dog Blueberry. There was a beer called Wild Blue. It was a really popular category of beer, but unfortunately, a lot of those beers really did taste like extract. And blueberry is one of those flavors that, as I was brewing a bunch of beers and trying to use a lot of fruits and utilize different flavors for those fruits and trying to find the best way to get that flavor profile, I found that blueberry extract was actually one of the worst extracts possible. I could never find a decent blueberry extract that didn't taste like a chemical and didn't taste really, really synthetic. So getting that authentic blueberry flavor usually takes real fruit, or at least a really good facsimile of real fruit. And this does that really well. Not only does the flavor taste authentic, but it is not overdone. It is not just dominating the flavor. This is not like Wild Blue, which I remember drinking back in the day where the beer was purple and it tasted like a bunch of just kind of medicinal blueberries, and that was it. This beer has subtlety. And blueberry in general is a subtle flavor. So it has subtlety of blueberry. It's got a little bit of honey flavor. It's got a malty, crackery, biscuity flavor. And the finish is really clean with maybe a smidge of tartness. It's not overdone. It certainly doesn't add sweet, which is another thing that's really important. We don't have too much sugar in this beer. We don't have too much blueberry. We got a really well balanced. You know, they talk about this when you look at how they market the beer. They say a light and refreshing ale. It's exactly what this is. A lot of people might think that something that would be kind of cloying or overdone if they ask for a beer with a bunch of fruit in it. And that's not this. And I'm really happy to try this beer again and see that it is so well integrated. It is so drinkable and makes me want to go back for another sip. You know, this is the kind of beer that when we at Barrel of Monks, we do a guava beer that's trying to do this exact same thing, trying to give you enough of that guava flavor so that you are not wanting for it. You're not saying, hey, I'm trying this beer, but it's not there, but not so much that it's the only thing you try. And I think this beer really hits the nail on the head there. It's not surprising. Like I said, I've had this beer in the past and remember enjoying it, but because of my history with Fatheads and what I've enjoyed so much of their beer, I think it makes sense that they would do this really well because they do so many other things really, really well. Especially being in South Florida, this is a great beer year round. It is refreshing. It is crisp. So I can see maybe, during the winter and maybe in Ohio, maybe this isn't going to be as popular. but a really nice spring summer beer, without a doubt. Beers like this, and also I want to say, you know, for those people that are like, well, they go even further in the direction with of not being a big fan of these kind of adjunct beers because they're like, oh, beer's not supposed to have blueberries in it. They've been putting fruit into beers for centuries. A Belgian white ale, which is a classic style of beer, uses orange peel and coriander. Utilizing fruits and spices is a natural thing for beers. Have been done for a very, very long time. It is not a new thing. It's not an Americanized thing. It's not something that we did just so women can drink it, which is absolute nonsense. The idea that these beers are for women because they're fruit beers, that's just silly. These beers are replicating in some ways or taking the next step in beers that have been produced for centuries over in Europe, utilizing the flavors that are available to make something delicious. That's something that we should always be doing and trying to strive for. So I want to mention that before I got into the idea of what to pair this with, because it can be kind of daunting. A lot of times when you see a fruit beer, people just say they're pair it with a dessert, right? So it's a blueberry beer, so do a blueberry tartlet, right? That could work, or do an ice cream, or do something of that nature. Uh, Fruit beers do not have to be one-dimensional because fruit can be utilized in so many different places in a meal. You have tons of salads that have fruit in them, so those flavors can go well together. You have like pork dishes with a fruit or a pineapple glaze, so you know that can go with pork dishes, or it can go with chicken dishes. So it's really kind of short-sighted to think that a beer like this cannot be utilized in many different kinds of foods, in a similar way of thinking that for some reason all fruit means that you're going to be a one-dimensional kind of beer. Uh, I was thinking when trying this, I love blueberry with goat cheese. I was thinking about a prosciutto goat cheese pizza. I think would go really well with this because this beer is dry, it is crisp and refreshing. Adding that fruity component with the saltiness and the richness of the prosciutto, the creaminess of the goat cheese, the earthiness there. I think this would be a really, really nice balance to that. When you look at, go to your local grocery store and you look at the goat cheese selection that might be there and available, a lot of times you'll see blueberry or cranberry. You'll see things like that, apricot paired with goat cheeses. So they go really, really well with those fruitier flavors. And I think the prosciutto would go nice. And I think it has the body that could stand up to a pizza like that. A little bit of olive oil, maybe a little arugula on there to add some pepper spiciness would be really, really nice. So I highly recommend that. To try those things out. I don't know if anyone actually tries out these suggestions that I have. Oftentimes I will, especially on dishes that I make on a regular basis. I get 6 of these cans, and oftentimes I will go home and I'll make that dish, or I'll put them in the fridge and I'll make it later on down the line. I recommend it if you are into food and beer like I am. To try some of these things together is a really nice opportunity. And also, if you can't get your hands on this exact beer, trying to find another great version of a beer like that. Harder to find a great blueberry beer, honestly, because there are a lot of bad ones out there. But if you don't have access to this and you can pick something else and you want to try out with a food like that, I think it would be a really cool thing. I'd love to hear about it if you do it. So thank you guys very much for joining me, like always, for Old Favorite Friday. Keep the suggestions coming in. This was a suggestion to pick this beer up. Someone that identified this and said this was available down here. And so we listen, and we really appreciate it. Please give us a like and subscribe so that you can continue to see these videos, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.